My name is Lauren Moores, VP of Strategy at Distillery, also Chief Data Nerd. Some of you know who we are already, but quickly indicate we are Distillery Programmatic Data and Technology Company. We translate behavioral and geolocation data into digital intelligence. We use that for media buying, audience creation, and insights. And today, we are bringing you that politicians are data-driven brands also. So we all heard about Nate Silver predicting the electoral votes for each state in 2012, crunching through raw data. We've also heard of President Obama's use of big data, 100-plus analysts, and predictive models to reach individual voters. It sounds pretty familiar for a lot of us. Use of data, machine learning, finding new audiences, or finding the best audience to retarget. Although I wish I had 100 analysts, I don't. So we do it every day. How? You have to start with smart data. We see over 50 billion data events a day, browser behaviors, app behaviors, device locations, and we map that to places of interest and activities. Now, it's not important to have big data, it's important to have smart data. So when you're receiving that much, you need to make sure that you're handling bots, fraud, location inaccuracies, anything like that, in order to harness it. So back to big data and politics. We have a political team at Distillery focused on harnessing our technology, specifically to see how well we could provide analysis on politicians as brands. So this includes applying our data in a different way to achieve new results and adding new ways of collecting and integrating data. And I guess I should start to use the slides. So here's our slide on the big data, right? Turning it into smart data, browser behaviors, app behaviors, locations. And essentially we use that in order to understand locations visited, apps used, websites visited, and other devices used using our crosswalk, which is a probabilistic matching algorithm. So back to politics. How are we going to approach this season, as you call it? Well, we knew that there was a lot of discussion about millennials and the vote of millennials and or college students in this particular election, and would it make a difference? And we decided we'd focus on Iowa. Knowing that as a ad tech platform, we are dealing with sparse data and we do not use PII, we chose an experiment that would work within those constraints. So why Iowa? The Iowa caucus is a great place to start for multiple reasons. Each caucus location is for a specific party, and the caucus for both parties happened on the same day. Plus, it's the beginning of the primary season. It was also the first time that the university students in Iowa were going to be in session, so we would be able to measure their impact on the results. So not only did we identify each caucus location, but we also identified each university in Iowa in order to set up our experiment. Now, what happened? So essentially, there's 198 caucus sites in Iowa, one for each party in each of its 99 counties. So during the caucus time period, we aggregated device IDs that we saw in those particular locations. And we overlapped that information with the devices we saw in universities for a period 2 weeks prior. Because our hypothesis at the time was going in, okay, we have a story here about millennials, we have a story here about college students. And the sample size we collected over the time period of the caucus was 16,000 plus. And we determined of those 16,000, 5.4% of those participants were seen on a university campus the previous 2 weeks. We compared that to some benchmarks. We found that it was consistent with exit polls that indicated of the 10% Democrat and 7% Republican caucus participants were in the 17 to 24 age bracket. So we knew that we had some data to start with. We didn't really know what the story was going to be. So what do? We use our bread and butter of marrying device ID to behaviors. So collecting device IDs, matching that information to the other data that we have on those device IDs, whether that be through web behavior, web app behavior, or other places visited. And I can tell you there's a lot of trial and error, right? What really is the story here? Is there enough data? Is there enough difference in the politicians to actually indicate something of interest? So we decided, we looked at it and sliced and diced it a few ways. And once the results came out on February 2nd, we identified the counties where one of the candidates won at least by 5 percentage points. And we did that by Democrat and Republican, because we're trying to get a baseline. We're trying to understand, I don't really know who you voted for, right? I know that you voted Republican because you went to that Republican caucus. I know that you voted Democrat because you went to the Democrat caucus, but I don't know who you voted for. So essentially, we have the device IDs, we have the behavior, we have these audiences. Well, how are we going to index them? So looking at the different counties and assigning each county to a winner based off of the actual poll results, we were able to come up with some pretty interesting characteristics of each politician, each candidate's audience. So, and here's the outline of what Iowa looked like. And as I said, we looked at each one of these counties and we measured those candidates that won by at least 5%. So who's the audience? And what we did is we indexed this across our crafted audiences. Crafted audiences are lifestyle, B2B, in-market. Gives a really good idea of behaviors for a particular marketer, and in this case, for a particular candidate. In addition, we measure the university student participation. So university student participation did matter for Sanders, but also Clinton and Rubio. And I know going into Iowa, everybody thought it was just going to be a walk away for Sanders in terms of millennials, not really thinking about the impact it might have on the Republican side. But for Rubio, it really made a difference. Some other generalities that we found. Caucus goers expecting a child or with a young baby tended to be in the Republican caucus. Caucus goers in counties won decisively by Trump tended to have stronger household interests, grillers, do-it-yourself, lawn and garden, hardware. Contrast that with the fact that Trump under-indexed on B2B, on business. So for those of us in New York, we tend to think of Trump and Trump Tower and all his dealings on the business side, where you would think that it would be business supporting Trump. But I think that we've seen since February that that's not the case whatsoever. He's appealing to a much different audience than he traditionally might have in the past. Techies were for Rubio and Sanders. Sports fans, mostly Rubio and Sanders, except for NASCAR. And that's where Trump and Clinton showed up. In general, from Clinton, we saw non-millennial women, working moms, women over 55, but she did get significant university support in some of the counties. Sanders, as you might expect, millennials, media, gaming. Rubio, millennials, NCAA fans. And Cruz had a under-indexing on online healthcare and B2B HR. And I think that for any of you listening to or watching these candidates, that makes sense based off of his platform. So that was Iowa, and that was fun, right? It was really cool to figure out, we could actually provide some audience insights on each candidate. This worked for Iowa. It didn't work for any other caucus. It didn't work for primary. Why? We, as tech platform, where we're getting streams of data, and a lot of the data is based off of publisher, where you might not have a full census of a particular audience, are using sparse information to pull together insights. So for something where you go in and vote, you're not likely to get on your phone, right? And for the other Iowa caucus right after Iowa, they were either a Democrat one day or Republican the other day. And by that time, we felt that the race had started to gel a bit. And there really wasn't any question about who the top runners were going to be. In addition, some states would not give us their data. So I know that the Nevada Democratic caucus would not give us their locations, so we weren't able to map that information. So what were we going to do? We decided that the window had closed on that type of analysis for this particular race. We decided to bring in another asset. We decided to experiment with advertisement polling, something that we had thought about doing in the past. It's not our core, but we knew we had the capability to serve up a survey within the creative to ask very simple questions. And we asked right after Super Tuesday, from March 3rd to March 5th, specifically, which candidate did you vote for? Now, I have to tell you that we originally went out with a copy on the survey, which was not as specific. And for those of you who are in the qualitative side and know that survey questions have to be very particular in order to make sure that you're not biasing results or you're actually measuring correctly, it was so ambiguous that we pulled it and reran with something very concrete. So we received about 1,500 responses, consistent with the information that we had seen on exit polls in terms of people responding. And we were able to, this time, know for the people that we have within our system who they voted for. And it was very parallel to the results that we'd already found for Iowa. Donald Trump supporters like grilling, NASCAR, and motorcycles. They're more likely to be contractors and do-it-yourselfers. Clinton supporters are more likely to be chief executives, small business owners, teachers, federal employers, and lawyers. And, surprisingly, luxury travelers. Sanders supporters are music lovers, millennial gamers, and IT professionals. There's also more of an interest in philanthropy. Now, Rubio was still a factor in Super Tuesday, so Rubio supporters resemble Clinton's, but on the Republican side. And when we looked at Trump and Cruz, we really couldn't find that big of a difference in terms of those audiences, or at least in terms of the data that we had. So I tend to think that it was probably more on the data that we had. So what's next? Now, forgive me for not putting up John Kasich, but statistically don't see that he could make it unless there's a complete upheaval during the voting in the Republican side. So I'm going to focus on these four candidates. We've shown that we can use location intelligence to provide audience behaviors for the candidates. We've shown that we can use survey as a seed set in order to do the same thing. Now, obviously things have changed a little bit. Sanders has taken the last 7 to 8 contests, but I think the audience is probably the same. So what can we do with that? Our next step is we're going to use those audience that we know over-index for each candidate, and we're going to map it out across those primaries that are upcoming. And we're going to test our ability to predict who will actually win across the board. Now, it could be, a experiment. It could be something really interesting. But we feel it's really important to continue to push our analysis and intelligence in this area, because this is the road that our marketers take, right? And politicians are no different. And essentially, particularly with this race, like going after your typical is not going to work. You're going to have to find out exactly how to get to that individual, similar to what Obama did in 2012. So just to recap, so we layer behaviors and location intelligence to reach voters. And essentially, we're using intelligence from the digital side to map to the physical side and understand insights for areas of interest. In this case, it's politics. And with that, I'm done.
Lauren, can you hear me?
I can, Zena.
Okay, great. So thank you for your presentation. I do have a couple of questions. Let me just access those. So what are some of the other applications for this work?
That's a great question. So we use this work right now in terms of location intelligence in order to help brands define creative messaging and also for targeting specific audiences with a brand. So for instance, if you're working on the digital side, we're going to use our regular machine learning, use the first-party data, determine unique brand code, and then target. But on the intelligence side for media optimization across other channels, we use this to either determine a particular audience for a brand and then figure out where that audience over-indexes, or vice versa. We can look at a particular area and determine for that area which audiences are over-indexing for that brand.
Okay, next question. Can this be done for other verticals or events?
Yes, absolutely. And we're doing this for CPG. We're doing this for a vendor who does a direct mail. We do this for out of home. Those aren't really verticals. Those are more channels. But yeah, we work across all verticals, particularly auto, telco, retail, CPG. I know I'm missing a few others.
Next question. What kinds of machine learning algorithms did you use?
That's a good question. We usually use a SGD model. We have various machine learning models where, depending on the data asset we're using and the feature set, we'll either use a straight regression or SGD++. We've got internal names for them. I couldn't tell you exactly what the algorithm is behind it, but if you think the way that we work it is based off of the seed set data, which can be first party, it could be location, it could be CRM. We're going to build 100 to 200 models per brand. And so we're using every type of different machine learning models that we have that we found work. Sometimes one will work better with location data versus behavioral data, or one will work better with industry data versus very specific marketer data.
Okay. This is the last chance for questions. If anybody has any, please type them in the chat box. All right, so if you do have questions after our event has ended, please send those to me. I'm at zena@thearf.org. That's Z as in zebra, ENA@thearf.org. And I'd be happy to forward these along to Lauren so that way you can continue the discussion offline. Lauren, are there any final thoughts that you want to share with us today?
No, I appreciate the participation. I know we were short. I think it's a pretty simple concept. But the takeaway really is that, you know, we work with behavioral data, and that's really what it's about. And it's the core of what I've been doing for 20 years. But please don't target me or because I'm a mom and I'm of a certain age, because you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And that's true whether you're a marketer, a politician, or anything else. It's like you look at behaviors, and there's so much data out there about that. If you use it wisely, then you can do the right thing.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you for taking the time to present your presentation with the ARF and our membership. And I look forward to hosting you guys again. We'll see you in Cincinnati. I'm not sure if it's you presenting, but I know Distillery is involved. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Yeah, we look forward to Cincinnati. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.